always the most interesting people in the world. But we hope tonight to fulfill your expectations. Before we start the official meeting, we often will have public comment, where people, members of the community, can come and talk to us about the items on the agenda. We don't ever respond to them. We look rude and we look, I don't know what, but we don't engage in those conversations. We just take the information under advisement and discuss it at a later time. We won't get into a dialogue about it. So it's not that we're being mean or nasty, but that's what we're doing. But before we begin, I do want to review the ground rules that apply to all members of the public who plan to speak during this period. These ground rules are based on district policy and Minnesota law. First, District Policy 206 states that the school board chair shall promptly rule out of order any comments that would violate state or federal law or would violate the privacy rights of others. Minnesota's open meeting law prohibits the school board from considering complaints or allegations against a student or an employee during a public meeting. Accordingly, any person who attempts to make complaints or allegations against a student or an employee during the public comment session will be ruled out of order and will be asked to immediately step away from the podium without further comment. This does not mean that members of the community are prohibited from making complaints or expressing concerns. Complaints or allegations against a student should be directed to the building principal. Complaints against an employee should be directed to the superintendent or the district's human rights office. Alternatively, if the complaint or allegation relates to the superintendent, it may be submitted to the school board in writing. Second, District Policy 206 states that personal attacks by anyone addressing the school board are unacceptable. Persistence in such remarks by an individual shall terminate that person's privilege to address the school board. The board will enforce this policy provision and may require an individual who violates this policy to leave the meeting and use alternative avenues of communication, such as email or U.S. mail, to share concerns with the school board. Third, district policy states that individuals who interfere with or interrupt speakers, the school board, or proceedings may be directed to leave the meeting. Conducting demonstrations or directly addressing the audience rather than the school board are examples of behaviors and conduct that interferes with the proceedings. And finally, the law prohibits any person from creating material or substantial disruption at a public meeting. By way of example, a person materially or substantially disrupts a public meeting if a person refuses to comply with the school board chair directive to immediately stop speaking on a matter that would violate the law or another individual's rights. A person also materially and substantially disrupts the meeting if the person refuses to comply with the school board chair's directive to leave the meeting immediately without further comment. If the board chair directs a person to leave the meeting and the person does not leave immediately and without further disruption, the superintendent may direct the person to leave and not return for a period of 1 year. Additionally, or in the alternative, the school board chair may request that law enforcement remove that person from district property and file charges for disorderly conduct for violating any other applicable laws. I'm sorry to have to start the meeting with all of that, but we don't usually go into such detail. But I do want, since we have a large crowd tonight, you understand the rules. I am the chair. I have the hammer. And you're gaveled out of here. You can go quietly. No fuss. Got it? Having said all that, we do have some people who wish to address us tonight. Julie, who's here to talk to us?
Okay, the first group are the swimmers. So Kate Hoffman, Justin Showers, and Rachel Liberty.
The other thing I failed to say in my long introduction is we do expect you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. We hold you to that. And not to repeat each other. So if you have something to say that's different from somebody who's already spoke, great. We do not expect you to come up and say the same thing that somebody else has already said. Thank you. And please introduce yourself to the audience when you approach the podium. Whoever's going to do the speaking.
Madam Chairperson, the school board members, and Dr. Larson. My name is Kate Hoffman. I'm a sophomore at Mahtomedi High School, and as a captain next year, I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Mahtomedi Swim and Dive team to urge your approval of the contract with the White Bear Lake YMCA so that we can hold our practices and meets there next year. I've been a swimmer since 7th grade, and I love the coaches and girls because it's like a big family. A struggle for being on the swim team is the practice location and the practice times. We practice at Oakland Pool, which is about a 25-minute bus ride from the high school. Each night of practice, I leave my house about 6:15 to carpool and arrive at the high school for the bus to leave at 6:45. We arrive at Oakland at 7:15 and practice until 9:15. After practice, we pull warm clothes over our wet swimsuits. We need to be out of the pool area within 5 minutes of the end of practice because we don't have enough time to shower. Then we quickly get back on the bus to ride back to the high school. After, we meet our carpool, and we usually arrive home about 10. Then we need to shower, eat something, study, and get ready for bed. I usually get to bed around 11 p.m. as does most of the team. Over the past year, I know the school board has been working on a sleep study. I know that the girls don't get enough sleep during the swim season. If we were able to practice at the YMCA pool, the commute time would be dramatically reduced. Even if the practice times were similar, the commute time for the team would be so much less due to closer location. We wouldn't need a practice bus since the YMCA is so much closer to the high school. I know I would get more sleep and could concentrate better in my classes. We could also perform physically and mentally better at school as could the other teammates. Thank you for your consideration of our request.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, school board members, and Dr. Larson. My name is Josiah, and I'm excited to be a captain for Mahtomedi Swim and Dive team for the upcoming season. I started swimming with Kate as a 7th grader. I am also a sophomore at Mahtomedi High School. One of my favorite parts of being on the swim team is connecting with the other girls and seeing how they grow throughout the swim season. This past fall, in Mr. Christensen's English class, we were assigned to do a persuasive essay. I wrote about the need for a pool that better meets the need of all our swimmers. I agree with Kate with the need for a closer location for our swimmers. I also researched the importance of having the right equipment. Did you realize that our preferred practice pool does not have any starting blocks? This means that we cannot practice using the starting blocks until we get to a swim meet. Before each meet, the swimmers practice 3 practice starts as part of their warm-up. We never get to practice relay starts, other than when we are currently participating in the swim meet. This is a huge disadvantage for us. If our team was able to practice using the starting blocks, I know it could be even more competitive. A great start can shave off seconds, which can make a huge difference for each race. According to a study I found for my paper by Julian Van Tor, a scientist, swimmers with less experience have slower reaction times and overall starts. Our swimmers are limited on the opportunities they have to try to work on starts since we do not have any starting blocks used. Our swimmers would benefit with faster times and could be even more competitive if we could use the proper equipment. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Rachel Liberty, and I am a fellow captain of the Mahtomedi Girls Swim and Dive for the 2018 season. I may be a captain next year, but I will also be a senior. This comes with the responsibility to leave the school, and more specifically my swim family, with a better community and environment for classes to come. While unfortunately there are financial issues when looking to improve the facility for the girls swim and dive team, what should not be forgotten is the safety of these student athletes. A pool located so far away from the high school puts unnecessary responsibilities onto upperclassmen who are often expected to drive younger swimmers to and from not only the high school but also to the pool. Our team only has a practice bus for 10 out of the 15 weeks of the swim season. For those remaining 5 weeks, upperclassmen or families must provide this transportation to and from the pool. The practices are late and end well after sundown. At the end of our fall season in November, it is both dark when we arrive and when we leave the pool for practice. Furthermore, we often see deer and other animals on the county roads located around Oakland Junior High. With only months or maybe a year of driving experience and younger swimmers in the car, my first concern is their safety. I believe this should be a top concern for you as well. This next season, there are only 4 upperclassmen girls who are old enough to drive. I genuinely think it is dangerous to drive so far back and forth from practices while responsible for my fellow athletes. I'm extremely exhausted after a practice in addition to a long day of classes and study. If we could practice at a closer location, I know girls would get home earlier and more safely. The roads near the YMCA are not as remote, therefore better lit with more traffic regulation. I hope you consider every factor when making this decision that greatly impacts a group of your student athletes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that you all took a different point of view about your request. Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Goldman.
Okay, I want to thank you for giving me a moment to speak with you on behalf of the girls swimming and diving team. My name is Mike Goldman, and I work for Mahtomedi School District as a coach. And I want to discuss several reasons why it makes sense to move our practice facility to the White Bear YMCA. And first of all, was mentioned the lack of starting blocks. Not only is the pool too shallow to have starting blocks, but another issue that we have is we can't even do starts off of the deck without blocks because it's 3.5 feet deep and it needs to be several feet deeper for that to occur. So we can't even simulate that part of it. Secondly, most other teams have the opportunity to do starts multiple times a week, and we only have a few opportunities during the season to do that, and it's very limited. And there are a lot of safety aspects in regards to starts. If you go too deep, there is a possibility someone could hit the bottom, etc., even in water that's 5-6 feet deep. So we don't get the opportunity to work on those things. And secondly, the thing that a lot of people don't think about is relay starts. You have an incoming swimmer, and if the outgoing swimmer hasn't had an opportunity to practice starts, there is always a possibility that they could actually land on top of the other swimmer, and that does occur from time to time. So we don't get those opportunities like other schools. Secondly, when we look at swimming events at the high school level, 8 of the 11 swimming events are considered to be sprint events. And we never get the opportunity to do speed work, which to make speed work effective, you need to do starts off blocks, do sprints off blocks where you're going to be at a higher speed. So that's something that we lack, and that's something that would be very beneficial for this program in regards to taking it to the next level. Lastly, I mentioned the pool is very shallow. One issue we deal with also with taller individuals is because it's only 3.5 feet deep, it makes it a lot more difficult to do turns, open turns, flip turns, and a new style turn that they do in the individual medley event called the box turn, where the individual opens up a little bit more on their turn, and there is much greater possibility of hitting bottom. And what we tend to observe is these swimmers sometimes are inhibited with their turns in competition, and then they're not going to swim as fast as they normally would if they have better opportunity to do that. The second thing I want to address is the issue with the diving facility down at Oakland Middle School. Going into the season, we were pretty much aware that the diving board needed to be refurbished. It is losing most of the abrasive surface on it, and the retaining bolts are coming loose. But we just recently found out also that the pool is actually not deep enough to meet high school league safety guidelines, and that's a big issue for us, not being able to use that facility as a diving facility. The third thing I want to address is some of the benefits of moving to a facility like the White Bear YMCA. First of all, it's a much bigger pool, so it allows...
I need to call you, but you're at your time limit, so...
Okay, thank you very much.
You can write that.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that one of the most important things about moving to a facility like the YMCA, we can call that a facility of our own. It would be a base for us. We'd be able to host meets there versus having to host meets at other facilities or even at the opposing team's facilities. So I want to thank you for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Lauren Cederstrom, who is discussing public comment and funding.
Good evening, Lauren Cederstrom, retired educator in Grand City Township. In terms of funding, I think perhaps maybe if you could start, I know you're already getting grants, but pursue some more state and also private grants. That might be also an answer to some of the funding issues. I don't know if you have something specifically does that. The other thing I want to mention, in terms of public comment, I watched the last school board meeting on YouTube, and I was shocked and appalled with the treatment of some public comment. I also noted Mayor Huber got up and spoke without recognition several times. There needs to be more transparency. It's public comment, not public censorship. So I think we really need to allow people to speak. In democracy, it's the will of the majority, and also we need to respect the voice of the minority. And I think that would also go a long ways in teaching our children about democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And next we have Bob Zick, who is speaking about public comment, calling the meeting to order, and AMSD.
Good evening, Board. I am Bob Zick, Inside News Hour. First, I want to say that deputy in the back of the room back there, I asked the sheriff to send him over here to protect citizens and the press from the abuses of this school board and protect our right of free speech and the right to petition our government. The last speaker spoke about YouTube. I hope people would take the opportunity to look at last school board meeting, the YouTube Shannon Bryan or Washington County Watchdog Facebook site. It's appalling. You know, public comment is the citizens' opportunity to petition their government. Now, Chair, you said if you interrupt the speaker, you will be asked to leave. I hope that applies to the board, that's just not to leave people. Last time you interrupted me, you didn't allow my 3 minutes to speak, to bring up issues. You know, when you censor the content of speech, when I wanted to get up here and talk about the $40 million that these citizens are going to, taxpayers are going to be on the hook for that ice arena for the next 20 years, and the fact that it's not going to have to come up to the voters, that it's coming through the back door, you know, and you limit those kind of comments. And then, you know, I read, when you read your intro there of all your gag rules, I hope you put that up on the school district website, because to me, on your agenda here, there's a presentation by the Minnesota School Board Association. This stuff all comes through that school board association to tell this body and other school boards how to get around the citizens and how to shut down public comment. You don't want to hear the things. If we're here to praise Caesar, we can talk. If we're here to say the king has no clothes, this board and this superintendent will shut them down. I hope our next superintendent over here is a little more friendly with the public and not do all the dealings in the back room. Open the system up. You don't have to do the things you do here and have the citizens have to call for protection from the police. There was a lot more items, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any additional speakers?
That's it. Thank you.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call of attendance. Need a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I have a motion that I would like to add an item for discussion. I would like to add the administrative task force for discussion.
Second. Any discussion? We don't have that in front of us to discuss.
We will be discussing the premise of the focus of the report.
We have a motion to amend the agenda to add task force discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll add one.
It will be 9E.
9. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda. And on this agenda, we are approving donations from the community for $6,400, all of which are greatly appreciated. They all further the mission of the school district and are used towards the wishes of the owners.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have some presentations and some recognition tonight. We'll start with our NAEP update. Julie?